Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to make a build video on Qorvex because somebody asked in the comments of my last video if I could do one on Qorvex, and I happen to just be building him anyways. So here we are. So Qorvex, his abilities aren't too crazy. Your passive, any weapon you're holding gets a +3 to punch through, which is pretty nice just as a passive. Your first ability is his pillars. You can have 2 out at a time and they'll do pulsing radiation statuses to all enemies in the radius. Your second ability, Containment Wall, you summon 2 walls in front of you in a line and they'll slam everybody together, doing radiation statuses and applying damage vulnerability, which is pretty nice. Your third ability, Disometric Guard, this gives you status immunity, and as you get kills or assists, you will gain more stacks of this, which is for you and your teammates, not just yourself, which is pretty nice because this is kind of like a pseudo overguard almost, with the status immunity, and this also is for like knockdown and stuff like that, won't affect you. And then your 4 is basically Iron Man laser beam. You shoot a giant laser from your chest and it'll do radiation to enemies, and when enemies are affected by radiation, they'll chain explosions basically, which is pretty cool. So now that we've covered his abilities, I'll kind of show you how they function before we go over and test with those guys. So his pillars, you just throw them down and then it'll do the pulse, and each pulse is radiation that'll be applied, and then you can kind of stagger the pulses if you place them separately, so it'll be like bam bam instead of going at the same time. And then your 2, you summon the walls and they slam together. Your 3, that's what's around me now, it's Disometric Guard. As you get kills, you'll gain more stacks. And then your 4, laser beam, and while your laser is active, you are immune to damage, which is really nice with his augment, which I'll get to later. But now I kind of want to show you how they work with the enemies. So we've got our things down, and then we can pull everybody together with our walls. Now they're all grouped up, and then we shoot the laser, and all the explosions will happen from your pillars and you, because we're aiming in the direction of the pillars. And they'll all explode, and we got a bunch of kills here. His single target, I will say, is pretty rough. So he's definitely, like, in my experience, he definitely is more of an AoE frame. But that's about everything for Qorvex covered. I'll go over my fashion really fast if you do want to copy it. It's nothing too crazy because Qorvex, not gonna lie, I spent like an hour and a half the other day trying to fashion Qorvex, and he's pretty hard to do fashion for. Which, if you have some in the let me know in the comments down below. But this is the best I could come up with. This and this look, which is like pretty standard, of just like gray. But me and a friend cooked this one up here. So our primary, tertiary, and accent colors are all just any black you want. I went with this one on the Light and Shadows palette. Our secondary, any dark purple you like, which I went with this one here on the Eminence palette. And then our emissive and energy colors are a flip of each other. The emissive, we have this purple here on the Eminence palette, and then our red, any red will do really, same with the purple, but it's this one on the Halloween palette, and then you flip them for the energy color. And then attachments, the only thing I really have is this Soul Eye Ephemera that I thought looked pretty good, and it's the same thing here, all black, and then our colors are flipped to give this red with the purple accents color, and it's the same ones as before. No Sayandana or anything, no sigils. I tried messing around with some, but they all looked kind of weird with the, I was trying to do like an Iron Man thing here, but it looked weird with all the holes in his chest and stuff. And then you have this helmet for Qorvex. I personally don't like it. It looks like you just kind of like punched him in the head really hard, but he's kind of a hard one to fashion, so I'm hoping we get some really cool skins for Qorvex in the future. But with that all covered for Qorvex, we can go ahead and hop into a Steel Path mission, and I can show you how he functions. Alrighty, now we are here in Persto Demos for survival, so that I can show off Qorvex. So I will say, the build I'm using now is a little different than what I showed in the training area, because I do have a helmet ability on this one. Because I was doing testing with Qorvex for this video, and I found out that Qorvex has a pretty sizable issue, and like, he has survivability with Disometric Guard because it protects you from statuses and all that jazz. But I found an issue that he's a health tank with no way to recover health. So I was thinking, what helmet abilities allow you to recover health? And the one that I ended up settling with was Gloom, which I know, very original idea in the year 2025. Everybody and their mom seems to think to throw Gloom on a frame. But for Qorvex, I don't know, it seemed to make sense for me because he needs health regen, along with I mean, if you're immune to damage with your 4 active, then you don't really need it. Same thing with the other options available. But I decided Gloom was the one that I wanted to settle on, because as long as you're doing damage, you have health restoration, basically. And with Qorvex, as you can see, AoE is the name of the game with Qorvex. He is not a single target kind of guy. So for him, I would pair him with weapons that are single target to counterbalance him not having it. Any single target weapon really will do, because he is big on AoE and not big on much else. So I pair him with the Jupiter most of the time, which I'll have a video on this coming soon, because I've had this built for a little while, I just haven't gotten around to making a video on it. But as you can see, even I don't have Gloom active, and I haven't this whole mission so far. I've just been spamming my 1 and my 4 whenever I need to. But the 3, or Gloom is mostly for like intense situations. You don't even need to have it, honestly. But I found it to be more comfortable, and that's normally what I aim for with my builds, is just being comfortable. If you've seen some of my videos in the past, you know that I'm more of a I'll sacrifice output for the sake of comfort, because I like my frames and my builds to be comfortably sustainable, and then damage can come later. But you can see here with these guys, you know, he's got some damage. I would kind of like his damage to be a little more in the single target. Like, maybe we get an augment for him in the future that makes it to where you can only place 1 pillar, but your single target damage with your 4 is super duper high or something like that. I'm not sure. Just throwing stuff at the wall, because his single target is pretty bad. But I mean, maybe that's what they were going for, was him to have low single target damage for the sake of having really high AoE damage. Because if you've got enough crowd density, Qorvex is awesome. And you can see up in the top right, I have 14 stacks of Disometric Guard. Because as long as you're getting kills, you'll continue to have stacks of his guard. And with his giant AoE, you'll constantly be getting kills, so you'll constantly have his stuff stacked up. And then I am using Qorvex's brand new augment, because I think it complements him really, really well, being able to walk around while your 4 is active, and letting your pillars do the explosions even when you're not looking at them. And then you can see here, now that I have Gloom active, as long as you're shooting something, you're immune to damage. With your Isometric Guard, you're immune to statuses. So you're pretty much untouchable with Gloom active on this guy. But I pretty much exclusively use Gloom in super, like, I need to not die here situations, kind of. Which, speaking I need to not die here, I need to go get some life support. But I don't use Gloom too often. I more use it as, like, a toggle ability than I do a constantly active ability. Unless I'm doing, like, I think I was doing Zeraman stuff the other day, and I had it active pretty much all the time. But those are like niche situations where I'm just getting hammered with damage. But more often than not, I just have it as a toggle, so that if I need to restore my health really quickly, I can just turn it on, shoot something, and then turn it back off. Because with this setup, it doesn't drain insane amounts of energy or anything. But just having it on permanently when you're not really getting hurt at all is kind of pointless, IMO. So I use it as a toggle more than an actual, like, constantly draining ability. But I'll come over and take some damage here, which if you know what Gloom is and you've seen it before, then you know where this is about to go. But with radiation as well, it makes the enemies kind of fight each other, so you can see I'm standing right next to all these guys, but none of them are really hitting me, and my companion's also spitting out radiation. But you can see here we have 400 health, we'll throw on Gloom, and then we shoot somebody and we're instantly back to full. So, and if you keep it active as well, when you're doing damage, unless I'm wrong, it also accounts for your abilities. So I'll take some damage here really fast. There we go. And yeah, it does count your abilities. So while your pillars are damaging things, you'll also just regen your health. So you don't even really have to attack yourself as long as Gloom is active. And then if you fire out your Death Ray, you'll get big ad clear, big healing, and all that. And the only downside I've seen with Qorvex Laser Beam and with the new augment is that it drains increasingly more energy. But honestly, it's so low of a consumption to the point of, like, you don't notice it. because I believe it's 0.12 increase a second or 0.2 increase a second, something like that, which is so super duper low that it doesn't matter. And if you turn the ability off for like a second and then turn it right back on, it resets the ramp up on the energy drain. So you can just completely ignore the energy drain altogether and get all the benefits of his augment mod. Qorvex is pretty chill. I assumed everyone online talks about he's super bad and super weak all the time. I don't know. He seems pretty solid. So we'll head back to the back rooms, and then I can talk about the build. Alrighty, now we are back in the back rooms, and I already went over the fashion earlier, so we can hop right into the builds. I have 3 today. I have 2 Hellman setups, and then we have a budget setup. And all of these, like I said, will work without a Hellman. So we have Gloom, Roar, and our budget. Roar, I threw on just if you want to have extra damage, just kind of flexible slot, honestly. But for our main setup here, which is our Gloom setup, we have Physique, which gives us more max HP, getting us up to the 1527. We have Umbral Vitality for HP, Fleeting Expertise for efficiency, Umbral Fiber for more armor, Primed Continuity for more duration, Umbral Intensify for energy, Primed Flow for energy, Overextended for range, and then we have Fused Crucible. Crucible Blast Augment. It becomes a channeled ability consuming 20 energy per second that ramps up. While pillars are active, they chain their reactions, and their duration is frozen. So you don't have to worry about a duration on your pillars, because as long as your 4 is active, they're frozen in duration. And then we have Arcane Bellicose, which gives us more strength for every 250 max HP. That's why I went with Physique and Umbral Vitality, to just get us our HP super duper high. And then we have Arcane Battery, which gives us more energy up to 1000 per armor point. So we have 970 energy, which this is flexible. I wanted Arcane Universal Fallout, because that seems like a no-brainer on Qorvex. But that runs like 700 to 1200 platinum, and I am poor. So I'm not getting that. And I haven't really done too much ETA lately, but battery is a good this is kind of a flex slot. I just kind of have battery here. And then Roar, we have the exact same setup, and with this we have a 40% damage increase, which isn't crazy, but it is 40%. But with this setup, you could drop Flow, you could drop the Crucible if you want to lean more into strength. You could also probably drop Umbral Intensify and throw in something like Blind Rage. And then since you don't care for duration, really, aside from Roar, you could get rid of Continuity, but with Continuity, it's 25 seconds, so I don't know if you would want to. Probably Fleeting Expertise you get rid of for more strength as well, so swap these 2 for strength, or all 3 of these for more strength mods to get that even higher. And then the same Arcanes, they're flexible, but these are what I have, because they feel, with what I have in my resources, that they fit best. And then for our budget setup, any aura will work, but Physique is ideal to give you the big HP because he is a health tank. We have Vitality for health, Intensify for strength, Stretch for range, Flow for energy max, Streamline for efficiency, Continuity for duration, Steel Fiber for armor, and then Fused Crucible because this is our, like, locked slot, quote unquote. Everything here is flexible to whatever you want to play. But Fused Crucible is like the quote-unquote must for my build specifically. You don't have to use it though, you can get by without it. Just know if you don't use it, for the explosions from your ultimate or your 4, you will have to aim at the pillars. They will not have their duration paused, and then you will not be able to move while using your 4, but you will still be immune. So keep that in mind if you do decide to drop the augment. But with those 3 builds covered, no arcanes here because it's a budget setup. This is for like if you happen to buy them with platinum and you're still in Star Chart, or this honestly could probably work in Steel Path because you do have the same amount of HP and armor. Your other stats are just lower, and then you do have your damage vulnerability with your walls. But the Gloom setup is my main one, which I know what some of you might be thinking, oh, triple Umbral in 2025. Yeah, but for health tanking like Qorvex, Inaros, you kind of want them because health and armor are pretty much what you want. With this amount of armor, I have 85% damage reduction to my health. And then we have Gloom giving us infinite health. So, and then we have our status immunity. So I know triple Umbral in the year 2025 is kind of crazy, but these work really, really nicely, and this setup's been really, really good. Those are our 3 setups. As it goes for weapons and companions, I've paired it with my Primer Diriga, which I've made a video about before if you want to go check that out. But our primary, really anything, I aimed for a more single target style weapon, which Jupiter, you have your underbarrel shotgun, which is pretty strong. Video probably coming on this next, and then I pair it with these because these are my favorite new secondaries since the Dakota bosses came out. We'll be making a video on these as well. And then melee, anything really. I like Praetos for the parkour velocity, but you could go with really anything here. Nothing too insane, but that is our build for Qorvex. Thank you guys for tuning into the channel, and I will see you in the next one.